Hello guys, and welcome back to another episode of Halo Talk. It's been a little bit of a while, and I'm happy and excited to get back into another episode because we got a few things to talk about. So what we're going to discuss in this video is how the Angels are doing, talk about individual players, and then we're going to do a Q&A for the second half of the video. So stay tuned for all of it. I don't think it's going to be quite as long as the last few podcasts or videos. I keep calling them podcasts, but sort of more of a video. And yeah, let's just get right into it. We got some things to talk about. So how have the Angels been doing these last couple weeks since we did the last podcast? I believe the last time I talked about the Angels was on the 18th, and that was after they played the White Sox. And coincidentally, right now, they're playing the White Sox again. So it's been pretty much 3 whole weeks since I last talked about the Angels. So since that Sunday they played the White Sox, they went on a road trip to play the Rangers and Astros. Lost 3 out of 4 to the Rangers, and then got swept by the Astros. So pretty bad road trip right there. Lost 6 out of 7 games. Then went to play 2 games against the Rangers back at Angel Stadium. Split that. Won the first one, lost the second one. Lost 2 out of 3 against the Red Sox. Got swept by the White Sox. And then just won today. So it's been quite a lot of losses. So again, it's tough to talk about the team as a whole because generally the team just hasn't been too great. It's looking like the Angels aren't going to finish strong to end off the season. Right now they are 4th in the division. They are 66 and 76, like 4 games behind the Rangers, then the A's and the Astros. So the record has pretty much just dropped. But you know, it's not terrible. It's honestly just not that bad that they're losing. I said in my last podcast that I want the Angels to keep winning because it's basically more attractive to free agents. And if we're winning more, it means that our guys are playing well. But fortunately, that hasn't really been the case. A lot of players have just been slumping. But what I'd like to do on this podcast is talk about the players that have been doing good. And there has been a few players that have been doing good. So basically, I just looked at the whole team and just looked at some players I wanted to talk about, whether they're doing good, whether they should have more attention to themselves. And yeah, we're just going to start talking about some players and how they're doing. There's a few players that nobody really knows that they're actually doing pretty well and they deserve a little bit more attention. And the first player I want to talk about is Albert Pujols. And he's had a bounce back year from the last couple years. And I specifically want to talk about him in this podcast because he's been on a really good stretch. That's usually how he is. He'll get really hot and then he'll hit really well. He's been swinging the bat really well. Driving in runs. Right now he has an OPS of 760, slugging of 450, on base percentage over 310, and those aren't bad numbers. He is, for being 39 years old and being able to bounce back from his last 2 seasons is pretty impressive to me. He had a really bad year in 2017 where he hit 672 OPS, 380 slugging, 280 on base percentage. Really bad numbers. 2018 was a little better, but I don't really think that people expected him to kind of bounce back. And he's been able to fill the first base position for us, which has been helpful. People have a lot of anger towards him because he gets paid so much. And I didn't really plan to talk about this, but it annoys me why so many people hate Albert Pujols. I like the guy. There's only one part I dislike about him, and it has nothing to do with his contract, because hating Albert Pujols for his contract is really dumb. I'll get to that in a second, but I don't like him because he's really inactive with fans. Just in his 10 years, it's almost impossible to get his autograph, stuff like that. If you guys follow a lot of my other videos, I go and try to get autographs and stuff. And almost everyone on the Angels does a great job in being active with the fans. Albert Pujols is the worst. You know, I just think that players should be more like Mike Trout, He's the best with it because, I mean, for players, fans are the reason that they're getting paid, you know? Fans buying tickets, buying merchandise. Our pool should realize more of like fans. They're the reasons why he's getting paid so much. But still, me not liking him has nothing to do with the contract. I'm kind of getting off topic here, but let me just say one more thing about Albert. You can't just hate him because he gets paid a lot of money. I know that he's not doing good, and he obviously doesn't deserve the money, but you gotta hate our old GM for that. Forgot his name. He's not important. He's a terrible GM. He's torn apart the Mariners and just made them horrible again. But yeah, he's the one that you shouldn't like if you don't like Albert's contract. If you're Albert Pujols and you're being offered this contract, would you really not take it because you don't think you can live up to that contract? Like, if you hate him because he took the contract, he's not playing well, that's a GM fault. They should have realized that last year on the Cardinals, he drastically went worse and kind of went really downhill from 2009 to 2011. His first year on the Angels, he actually did well. 2015, he was an all-star, actually. He hasn't been this awful player that people think of him. He's been sort of an average player, obviously getting paid one of the most in baseball. I understand why people kind of don't want to like him or are frustrated about the contract, but you shouldn't be mad at him about it. The GM was the one that offered him the contract, and of course, if you're Albert Pujols, you're going to take that contract because it's a smart thing to do. Take a contract, a crazy money offer for a contract for you to play till you're like 40 and keep making this much money. It's kind of absurd, but Albert's not the one you should be hating about on that. And one more thing, he's been so healthy this past 8 seasons. A lot of injuries are just by accident, but sometimes people aren't taking the best care of their bodies. And Albert Pujols is just amazing with taking good care with his body. He's barely been injured. If you guys think about it, I don't remember one moment he's been injured. And this guy's in his late 30s. This guy doesn't get injured. This is his 8th year on the team. He's gotten injured like 1 or 2 times. He's been able to fill the first base role. And yeah, we just talked about Albert Pujols for way too long. We're going to go and get into another player, Brian Goodwin. Just having such an underrated year. He's doing pretty amazing for us this year. He hit another home run today. Let's look at his stats right now. Let me just find it. Where are his stats? Fortunately, I can't find his stats, but off the top of my head, his average is like 280s or something. On base percentage, 330 something, I think. OPS like 850. And he's been the second or third best hitter on the team this year. And it's pretty crazy how he hasn't gotten to play more games because he's been such a good hitter for this team. He deserves to be starting right now over Upton. I don't care if Upton's in a slump or whatever. Goodwin's hitting over 100 points higher than Upton in like every stat. It's pretty straightforward on that one. Also defense, Upton really can't play defense. I don't really care if Upton's getting paid more money. Upton's aging. Goodwin's still pretty young. He was a first-round draft pick. Sort of never really lived up to his hype. Obviously until this year, he's broken out this year. And flat out, just pretty much an all-star type of player. His numbers this year are all-star numbers. It's crazy that he hasn't found a starting spot on this team. His numbers are better than Cole Calhoun. I would even be fine if he'd play over Cole Calhoun. But Calhoun has been having a great year, and he has Gold Glove defense. But Upton, it just doesn't really make sense how he starts. But Goodwin, there's nobody else close to Goodwin, Ohtani, and Trout. And yeah, that's pretty much all I got to say about that. He got some at-bats today because actually what I forgot to talk about is Mike Trout had a small injury in this game today where the Angels won 5-4. It was a comeback win where Goodwin hit a game-tying home run in the 8th, 2-run home run. Upton hit a go-ahead home run in the 9th. That's what I want to see more of. I want to see more of clutch moments. Angels don't get a lot of come-from-behind wins. They lose a lot more close games than they win. We really need to see more of these close wins coming in next year if they want to make the playoffs. But anyway, I keep kind of sort of going off topic a little bit. And then we just had September call-ups. If you guys don't know, September in baseball, the rosters expand where you can just call up some players for the minors, have a bigger roster going into the postseason. And the Angels called up Justin Bour, Taylor Ward, Jared Walsh, Michael Hammercio, Jake Jewell, Luke Bard, and Adalberto Mejia. As far as the hitters, they haven't really been getting too many at-bats yet. None of these guys that were called up have really started any games. I'm not sure about Luke Bard and Adalberto Mejia. Adalberto's been up and down, all season. He got DFA'd, went to the Cardinals, came back to the Angels. Kind of a weird season for him. Luke Bard, not sure if he's pitched yet. And yeah, let's go more into the Angels pitching. I want to talk about some pitchers in particular. First of all, starting pitching, Andrew Heaney. And he's pretty much bounced back from the beginning of the season. He definitely struggled in the beginning of the season. He had his ERA around 5. Now it's right around 4. I took a picture of, there are the stats. I actually have his stats, thank you. His ERA is 4.16, whip 1.2. Solid numbers, solid average starter, maybe even above average if he can stay healthy. And compared to his career stats, this year he's a little better. Hopefully we can see him do better and better into next season because he's just been doing better since the beginning of the season, like I said. And then Dylan Peters, I'm going to go a little quicker just to get to the Q&A. Dylan Peters this year, I want to talk about him real quick because his numbers don't look great. 4.45 ERA, 1.4 whip. But he's had a lot of really good starts. And when I looked at his numbers, I was a little surprised because he's had a lot of quality starts. He's sort of like Jaime Barria, where most of their starts are quality, but just a couple starts they've blown up. So that's why their stats look a little bad. But compared to his career stats, he played 2 seasons with the Marlins before coming to the Angels. His career stats is a 5.2 ERA and 1.5 whip. His stats this year are a lot better than his career stats. He's still a young guy, he's 27. I think he could be a starter coming into next season. I think his numbers can continue to get lower. His numbers have been getting lower and lower since his rookie season. And again, he's a really young player. I like Dylan Peters. He's been a little bit of a good surprise. And then let's talk about a few relievers real quick. Keenan Middleton, he just got back from Tommy John. He was out for a year and a half. And I really like this guy. He's getting his velocity back up. He can throw up to 100 miles per hour before Tommy John. He's a little slower right now, but I'm pretty certain that he'll get back up towards high 90s, 100 miles per hour pretty soon. He looked good today. He got a couple outs in the game today. So far, he hasn't allowed a run this season. Only 3 innings, but he hasn't allowed a run yet. He's definitely going to be a solid reliever coming into next season. And then to finish off with the relievers, we're going to talk about Hansel Robles real quick. Put some spotlight on him. He's been really good in the closing role. One of the best closers in baseball this year. His ERA this year is 2.5, whip 1.06. He's done his job. I don't have how many saves he has here, but he's pitched 64 innings, 65 strikeouts, 2.5 ERA, 1.06 whip, which is just great numbers. Really, really good. Compared to his career, his ERA is 3.6 and whip 1.2. The Angels got him in a really good deal with the Mets last year. Hansel Robles has been a really good closer this year. Started off the year not even being a closer. Cody Allen started off the year as a closer, and he just did terrible. Hansel Robles filled in the role. He's been amazing as a closer. Okay, this is my favorite part of the podcast. Hopefully we got some good questions. Every couple weeks I release an Instagram story asking for Angels questions. Yeah, that's pretty much it. And then I look at them, try to answer them. Thank you guys if you replied and asked questions. I appreciate any question. I'll try to answer every question. These questions I'm asking for is just about the Angels, but I'm gonna start to do separate Q&As on Instagram only when I'm talking about things other than Angels, like my videos and stuff. I'm gonna do those in separate Q&As, but make sure you check out my Instagram if you haven't yet, angels.vlogs, where every couple weeks I'll ask for a story, asking for people to send in questions. Let's get into the first questions right now. What are they missing? Well, first of all, this is from Betito27. What are they missing so they can be competitive? They as an Angel, of course. Like I've always said, it's pretty simple. Starting pitching is what we're missing. There's not really any holes in the starting lineup anymore. I mean, the bullpen is pretty great. I think if the Angels get maybe one or two more great relievers, I think I answered kind of this exact question last podcast, but it's good to kind of talk about it again for the people that didn't hear it. Maybe a couple more spots in the bullpen. There's a lot of great relievers in there, but maybe if the Angels can get a couple relievers in the offseason, along with a couple star pitchers. I mean, Ohtani's going to be back pitching next year. Heaney deserves a spot in starting pitching. Griffin Canning will be in the starting pitching. And then there's also people like Dylan Peters, Patrick Sandoval. What else? Can't think of anyone else right now. But talent is coming in Angels starting pitching. It's a really young group, but Angels need to be a win now team, so they need to get a few star pitchers. One of them, Garrett Cole, definitely need to get him. He's one of the best pitchers in baseball, top 5. I'm going to go deep into the Angels offseason next podcast, so definitely stay tuned for next podcast. I'm going to talk about what the Angels should do, but as far as the record, why the Angels aren't competitive, 10 games under, I really don't know how they're 10 games under. They have one of the more talented rosters in the MLB, but they just simply lose close games. But yeah, the main thing is starting pitching to be more competitive. Who would you rather have, the 2005 Bartolo, who played for the Angels, or Nolan Ryan as an ace? Nolan Ryan, one of the best pitchers ever. Bartolo had a pretty great Cy Young season, but it wasn't like a normal Cy Young season. It's kind of a below average Cy Young season. If you're just talking about like a 1-year contract, like 1 year Bartolo or 1 year Nolan Ryan, maybe Bartolo, obviously his Cy Young season, but anything more than 1 year, obviously Nolan Ryan, because he's amazing. Can the Angels make the 2020 World Series? Assuming you're not saying like win, just make. There's the Astros and Yankees that are really good every year. Also the Twins, teams like the Indians, A's, Rays, all really good and fighting for the playoffs. I think they're all going to be there next year. I just hope at the very least the Angels can make the playoffs next season. And anything can happen in the playoffs. Wild card teams can make it to the World Series. Second wild card teams. Once you get into the playoffs, you never really know. So yeah, the Angels can make the 2020 World Series. This question from Dalton Brown: if you can have an all-time Angels team, who would be on it? I love this question. What a question. I wish I knew a little more about, the Angels' past and history, because I should know more. I really want to learn more. Obviously in center field, we're going to have Peter Borges. No, we're going to have Mike Trout in center field. Right field. God, I'm trying to think of players in what position they played in. So, Mike Trout in center. I have to go with Garrett Anderson in left. You got to have at DH Tim Salmon, Rod Carew at first base. I didn't even say right field yet. Vladimir Guerrero in right field. Well, starting pitching, Nolan Ryan. He's going to be my starter for he's just going to be the ace. You got to put at shortstop Eric Ibar. You got to have Troy Glaus in there. I believe he was pretty amazing for a couple years on the Angels. He was just a slugger. Trout in center, Garrett Anderson left, Eric Ibar short, Rod Carew second, Troy Glaus first, Nolan Ryan pitcher, catcher, I really don't know. We'll just put Eric Ibar at third, Simba at short, and then catcher, I don't know. Who's an all-time great Angels catcher? All I can think of is Molina. Brian Downing was a long-time Angel, wasn't he? Yeah, I'll put him at catcher. So Brian Downing catcher, Nolan Ryan pitcher, first base Troy Glaus, second base Rod Carew. I had shortstop Simba, third base Eric Ibar. right field Vladdy, center field Trout, left field Garrett Anderson, and DH, who do we have at DH? We had Tim Salmon at DH, of course, Tim Salmon. Okay, so yeah, great question, Dalton Brown from Fisher Cotton. I was actually talking to him at the Angel game like last week. He's an awesome dude. When do you think we will have a solid pitching staff? Who do you think will stay pitching? I don't know if I just screenshotted the question. I don't know if the question continues, but I mean, next year, if 2 star pitchers can come on this team, then that will be, at the very least, a solid starting pitching staff. I mean, just Garrett Cole, and then obviously Ohtani coming back. That would make it a solid starting pitching staff. Who do you think will stay pitching? Probably what you were going to say will stay pitching next year. Heaney will stay, Griffin Canning, and then a little bit up in the air after that. Patrick Sandoval could be there. I feel like I'm forgetting a few starters, but yeah, I think definitely by next year we'll have a solid starting pitching staff. Who's your number one fan? If you're talking about my videos, I really don't know. I have a lot of big fans. That would be tough. I don't think I have one number one fan because a lot of people are big supporters who I appreciate a lot for watching all my videos. That question was from Johnny Hefty, XX Angels 45 XX. Who should the Angels trade out? Billy Epler isn't much of a guy that does trades. He's more of a guy that will sign players, and that's pretty much it. We haven't really seen any big trades from him. He does small things like get Max Stassi, did get Simba, which was a good trade. I'm not sure if that was Epler or the past GM actually, but it's hard to say a player that should get traded out, you know? But if there had to be one that I can think of is prospect Brandon Marsh, because there's absolutely no spot for him. The outfield's already packed with Joe Adell coming up next year. He wasn't a September call-up actually. I would have liked to see him come up for like a month in the MLB, but no reason to rush him. He'll be up next year. He's going to be in the outfield next year. Brandon Marsh is another outfield prospect that can be worth something, and there's just no spot for him. I mean, there's Trout, Upton, even Calhoun could be back next year, Joe Adell, Goodwin. No spot for any more like big outfielder prospect. If there's anyone that should get traded out, is Brandon Marsh, because there is value to him as an outfielder prospect. And then he also asked for a room tour. The room tour video is coming soon. That is the biggest request I get. I've gotten it for a while. I'm sorry, I should have done it sooner. I was trying to wait for the off season, but so many people want to see it that I might do it before the season ends, like a room tour, and you know, like my collection, showing my collection, everything. That's gonna come soon. Stay tuned for that. Why does Jose Suarez stay in the majors? He sucks. From Nathan Quells, 23. He's a cool guy. I don't know why he's still in the majors. I agree with you on that one. People like him, Jaime Barria, they're just too rushed. Especially Jose Suarez. He's only 21. He doesn't suck. He's just really young. He's a good pitching prospect, but his ERA is like 5 or 6. I mean, he's just not worthy of the MLB yet. He's not ready. He needs more years in the minors. From Balcesto Valier. Why is Hansel Robles wearing Shohei Ohtani? Oh yeah, that's a photo. This is a photo that I used to ask for questions about the Angels. Hansel Robles probably loves Ohtani. That's why he has a shirt of Ohtani's face. That's actually going to be a giveaway at Angel Stadium. I'm going to that game. I'm going to get as many Ohtani shirts from that giveaway as I can. Probably going to give one away too and as an Instagram giveaway. It's just a shirt with Ohtani's face on it. It's pretty amazing. And yeah, Hansel Robles is wearing a shirt because he loves him. And yeah, from Despacito. Nice username. If you had to spend the day with one player, who would it be and why? Mike Trout. He's just such an amazing person. Obviously the best player in baseball. I would just love to spend a day with him to see what he does during the day because he's sort of a private person. Doesn't, you know, talk about or share on social media that much of what he does as much as like other players, but he's just such an amazing person with fans and everything. It would be so interesting to see, you know, just to spend a day with him. Good question there from Oliver Cavett. This guy's awesome too. I've seen it. I've hung out with him at Angel Stadium a few times. Best stadium you have been to for ball hockeying? Well, this isn't really an Angels question, but whatever. I'll just answer it. It's a little tough. It's funny because I usually don't get a lot of baseballs when I go outside of Angel Stadium because I'm just so good at Angel Stadium. I'm just not really good when I leave Angel Stadium. But it would probably be Texas Rangers, probably the best stadium I've seen for ball hockeying. I didn't do good when I went there because they didn't hit good BP. But that stadium, there's just so much space to catch baseballs, toss-ups. So definitely the Rangers. Sad that they're leaving, but their stadium is just way too hot. You can't survive there in the summer. Gonzalez Ballhack, why do you like the Angels so much? How do you become an Angels fan? My family's big Angels fans. They play like 5 miles away from where we live. I've always been going to Angel games since I was a kid. Now we have season tickets, and it's just so fun watching baseball. I used to only go to Angels game because I just loved baseball and watching it, getting baseball autographs, and just slowly became a huge fan of the Angels because you just watch them every day. I have a lot of their autographs, start to get like connections with a lot of players, and just really voting for a lot of players to do good. If you go to so many Angels games, it's just hard not to start to get obsessed with the Angels. And yeah, who has been the most surprising player on the Halos this year? There's been a lot of good surprises. I would say most surprising, Brian Goodwin actually. A lot of people think Tommy LaStella, but he's been injured half the year, fortunately for him. They've both been surprises, but Goodwin's just been on a whole nother level all year. Also been Hansel Robles, who's been doing really, really good. What's wrong with Anaheim trainers from JPS Graphs? I don't think pitchers getting hurt is really the trainer's fault. It's just unlucky for us. It's just, for some reason, it's a weird coincidence that so many Angels pitchers have been getting hurt that it's almost unusual, but I wouldn't say it's the trainer's fault. Air miles, any solid relievers the Angels should look to pick up this winter? That's a good question because I do think the Angels need a couple more relievers, and I don't know who in particular. You really got to look in who's a free agent, stuff like that. From Luke Desi, how many touchdowns have they scored? That's a good question. They've scored 0 touchdowns because they're an MLB team. They're not an NFL team. And yeah, from Sam Marinek, do you think the Angels will sign Garrett Cole and Zach Wheeler this offseason? Garrett Cole and Zach Wheeler are the 2 big pitchers the Angels are rumored to get. Zach Wheeler, very solid starter. He can be a number 2 or 3 starter on our team. Garrett Cole, he's an ace. I think the Angels are most likely to sign Garrett Cole. They got, to me, at least a 50% chance of signing him. Like I said earlier, I'm going to go more into that next podcast. And Zach Wheeler, I haven't really looked too much into that, but someone like him, the Angels have a good chance of getting, because the Angels have a lot of money this offseason to get pitchers, which is really something to look forward to. So I think definitely Garrett Cole, and then Zach Wheeler the Angels are front runners for him too. So yeah, it's definitely possible the Angels can get both of them. 3 more questions. Will we ever sign a good pitcher? This season, most likely. Really optimistic about it. It's probably going to happen. That's kind of like the last question. From King Dre, can I join your podcast? I'm still trying to think about how I'll do that, but I probably will get more people to call into the podcast to talk with me. I think it's definitely a good idea. So yeah, I'll DM you or stuff about that. Final question from Watani Central. Do you think we'll get Zach Wheeler and Garrett Cole next offseason? Well, yeah, that's the same question as the other Sam Marinek. Again, I think hopefully Garrett Cole and Zach Wheeler, or someone like Zach Wheeler. Thank you for watching / listening. Make sure you subscribe, like the video. Check out my Instagram, link in the description. And I will see you guys next video. Peace.